UFC 245 was a dope card. I find myself saying that a lot about UFC cards, but what can I say? They put together a good show, good promotion, good product. The first fight that I saw was, which I think was the first one, the first on the main card. Maybe it was the undercard, actually. I'm trying to think. Anyway, it was Uriah Faber's fight, which I don't know why he came back. I mean, Uriah Faber, a legend, Hall of Famer, California kid. Guys, if you retire, stay retired. I hate when fighters retire or leave for whatever reason. They wind up coming back and do badly. Then it's like they're like chasing the dragon type of thing. And I'm not a fighter, obviously, by any stretch. But I liken that to like any pursuit or profession. Once you call it, you call it. Stick to it. Do something else. Because then you have like a hungry up-and-comer. Or not necessarily up-and-comer, but in Uriah's case, it was Peter Yan that, schooled him. He definitely outclassed him. Uriah had a nasty cut, and Peter Yan TKO'd him in the third round. Then next up was the Marlon Moraes and Jose Aldo fight. And I actually tweeted earlier on in the week, I saw an interview or a picture of an interview with Aldo while he was doing his press run and Ariel. And Jose Aldo, which cut down from 45 to 35, I think for the first time, looked like fucking Skeletor. Like he looked drained. Horrible. And he came into this fight and looked fucking spectacular, in my opinion. Best that I've seen him in a while. Like, looked like he has a future in the 35 division if he can continue to make the weight. He's obviously a Hall of Famer also, legend, but someone that started early and is fairly young. He's like in his early 30s, if I'm not mistaken. Just has a lot of like fights under his belt, a lot of mileage. And to me, he looks stronger. Oh, he's 33 years old, actually. He looked stronger than Moraes. He was walking through Moraes' punches, just eating them. And I thought Jose Aldo won, but the decision was ultimately given to Marlon Moraes. And like I thought clearly Jose Aldo won. He thought so too, seemingly. At the end of the fight, like when they called it, he was like kind of like, what the fuck? Put his hands up in the air type of thing, and was talking to Marlon, and I couldn't make out exactly what they were saying. But body language wise, it seemed like he was like, oh, come on, that was a bullshit decision or something like that. So yeah, I think it was robbed. Then next we had the women's bantamweight title bout between Amanda Nunes and Germaine de Randamie. Nunes fucked up the Randamie in the first round, I thought. And she got it to the ground and pounded the fuck out of her. She had her knee on her belly. She arm triangled her. But the Randamie made it through and made it out. Then in the second round, it was mostly the Randamie, like while they were standing up. And Nunes had to resort to takedowns. She definitely had a clear advantage on the ground with her jiu-jitsu. And the Randamie actually had a big head kick and knees to the head that seemed to rock Amanda. And Amanda took her to the ground and rode out the rest of that round. Then Amanda went back to dominating in the third with her ground game, her wrestling. She actually took an up kick from the Randamie, which wobbled her, but she got through it. Then in the fourth, it was more Nunes. She continued to dominate on the ground. The Randamie got caught in a triangle that transitioned into an arm bar, and then she slipped out of it. And even though it was like heavy groundwork, heavy jiu-jitsu, which we're not used to seeing from Amanda, it was a dope fight. It was an exciting fight, and she got the W. She retained her title. And she actually said on the mic that the game plan was to go 5 rounds. Like, she wanted to showcase her other skills, namely on the ground, and not that she's just a knockout artist. And by the way, DC's commentary, Daniel Cormier's commentary, is like a masterclass for what fighters can be doing or could have done better. Like, if fighters like go back and watch their own fights, they should definitely watch it with the commentary. If it's like Rogan, DC, in this case specifically, Dominic Cruz is another favorite of mine in terms of like fight IQ and But DC is like in a class on his own. Like they can learn. To me, it felt like they can learn from his commentary, just the way he delivers it, the way he gives like pointers and should have done this to try to get that position. He's definitely one of the GOATs in fighting and also in commentary. Then we have the Holloway and Volkanovski fight, the co-main event of the evening for the 145-pound strap. That one of my favorites, Max Holloway, for the first time in a long time, lost to Alexander Volkanovski. And I want to repeat the weight class that they're fighting in, 145. Just to say that Volkanovski used to weigh 250 pounds. And he used to be a rugby player. And he got down to 145 for this fight. Which is insane. I mean, he's been a fighter for a long time, but he used to play rugby, and when he did, he weighed 250 pounds. That's literally over 100 pounds more than his fight weight, which is insane to me. But Holloway, to me, and to most, I don't think it's like really debatable, is the best featherweight of all time. But Volkanovski fought a great fight. He had a shitload of leg kicks, which seemed to bother the hell out of Holloway during the fight, and came away with the W. Basically on points. Not basically, literally on points, because it went to decision. And according to Max on Rogan's podcast, the leg kicks looked a lot worse than what they were. He said like that night, he went out like partying or clubbing or whatever, as he had planned, like win or lose, and his leg was like never an issue, and he had gotten like hurt and rocked, much worse in other fights that he ultimately won. So although he didn't agree with the decision, he tipped his hat to Volkanovski and obviously said he would love to do it again, a rematch if that's what's offered to him. But during the fight, like watching the fight, like by round 2, like Max's legs were like completely like chewed up from leg kicks. Like his left leg was so fucked up to the point that Max had to wind up like switching stances. I don't know if he did that unconsciously or because it hurt or because maybe it was part of his game plan or not. But it was definitely something that visibly bothered him during the fight. Max, as usual, had like a bunch of successful like boxing flurries. He's a very creative puncher and has awesome movement. So that's always a treat to watch. Well, I was watching, and I'm not a professional judge, obviously, although I can't imagine I'd be much worse. But I would have given Volkanovski, I thought he won the first and the third, and the fourth might have been Holloway's due to like the combinations that were and like heavy strikes that were thrown. But Volkanovski just outstruck Max in every single round, and he wound up winning a unanimous decision. And fun fact, he is a training partner of Stylebenders, Israel Adesanya. I thought that was pretty interesting. And last but not least, the very much anticipated Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. This is Kamaru Usman's first fight back after beating Tyron Woodley, one of the most dominating welterweight champions of all time, versus Trump's favorite UFC fighter, Colby Covington, the epic Trump troll, MAGA hat wearing, cheap suit wearing, great fighter that has a gas tank that lasts for days. These two guys were very much so known for their wrestling. It's crazy to see that they stayed standing the entire time. I don't think not one attempted a takedown like throughout the entire fight. And if they did, it was maybe like towards the end, towards when they had a couple scrambles. But it was back and forth the first round. Usman had some wins. Colby had some wins. Back and forth, dead even, I would say. In the second round, it was more of the same. But there was a lot more volume as expected from Colby's side. But the harder shots were coming from Usman. Kamaru was definitely hitting Colby with some hard shots to the body specifically. The third was a lot more of the same. And then going into the fourth, Colby told his corner, which was picked up in the audio, that he thinks his jaw is broken. Then the camera crew started showing like instant replays of where they thought his jaw actually did get broken. And, like Rogan, DC, and these guys added like the commentary around that. And it definitely was. It shows like a straight, I want to say right, but maybe it was a straight left. I think it was a right though, a straight right down the pike directly on Colby's jaw. And you see that shit like go to the other side of his head. What was most impressive though is that during that, that was going into the fourth round. During the fourth round, like Colby may have won the fourth round. Like there was very competitive back and forth. And with a broken jaw, it was like super impressive. Going into the fifth, I would have said it was like 2-2. Like 2 rounds to 2 rounds. Maybe 3-1 for Usman, but I wouldn't have been upset if it was 2-2. Then in the fifth, Kamaru stepped it up a notch more. He knocked Colby down twice, both times with like less than a minute to go. And then like hammer fists and TKO'd him, which I'm sure was a nice feather in his cap. Nice way to end it. Guy that was talking massive amounts of shit for a very long time. He really plays up that heel character. To be able to literally shut him up and break his mouth has to feel good on some level for Kamaru. So hats off to him. Hats off to UFC 245. And hats off to you fine folks for listening to the first episode of 2020 of the Spun Today Podcast.